Hello everyone, my name's Chlorophyll, but you can call me Phil. And for those of you that are new here, I'm from the AquascapeGuide.com. Sorry I've been a little MIA, but I'm back today to address the question, how do you cycle an aquarium? Just in case you are wondering, this goes for all aquariums and not just planted tanks. But we're going to start off by saying that we only condone fishless cycling for two reasons. One, we know that fish are no longer needed to cycle a tank. And two, this environment gets very toxic for all livestock. The cycling process starts out by adding ammonia. However, ammonia starts to become toxic at 0.25 parts per million. When cycling a tank, we need to get our ammonia up to 2 to 3 parts per million, which is 8 to 12 times higher than what is safe for fish and other livestock. Ammonia at this level can permanently damage fish's gills and also kill them. So for anyone cycling a tank, please do not add livestock until you're 100% sure the cycle has completed. So this leads me to our next topic. What is the cycle? The cycle is just a short term for the nitrogen cycle, which is basically just culturing bacteria that consumes and converts toxic compounds like ammonia, which can be harmful to fish, into less toxic compounds like nitrates, making them safer for the livestock in the aquarium. It all starts with a single bacteria that converts ammonia, which again is toxic at very low levels, to nitrites. Then another bacteria develops that converts nitrites into nitrates. Once the two bacteria consume all the ammonia and nitrites, and everything is processed into nitrates, your tank is considered cycled, and the nitrogen cycle can continue to protect your livestock. Now, nitrates aren't super toxic, but we don't want them building up like crazy either. The only way to reduce nitrates is by water changes, or absorption by plants. In really large bodies of water, there is another bacteria that can form that can consume nitrates, but we don't really see these in our smaller tanks. And once these bacteria develop, they stay in your tank unless we accidentally kill them. So this leads us to, how the heck do we get this bacteria in our tank? Well, this is extremely easy, as the bacteria will form naturally if there's an ammonia source present. So here's how we set this up. We fill the tank up with conditioned tap water or remineralized RO water. We really like Seachem Prime as a water conditioner. Then get your filtration up and running, which should totally be a canister. Kidding, not kidding. And if you have not already, check out our filtration video in part 1 of our guide. The next step is to get yourself a source of ammonia. We really like Dr. Tim's ammonium chloride, but you could even totally use a grocery store clear unscented ammonia. Just plain old ammonia cleaner with no additives. A half gallon will last you forever, and you only really use very little when cycling your tank. The goal is to use enough ammonia in your tank to get it up to 2 to 3 parts per million. With Dr. Tim's, it's easy. The instructions state to add 4 drops per US gallon to your aquarium water, and you're at the perfect amount of ammonia. If you do overshoot it a little bit with the store-bought ammonia, process a small water change to bring it back down to that target range of 2 to 3 parts per million. Once it's in the sweet spot, you just wait 4 to 6 weeks. That's it. It's really this easy. I'm serious. Why are all of you guys looking at me like that? I don't know why people make this more complicated than it needs to be. Also, during the cycling process, do not process water changes unless your ammonia is above that target 3 parts per million. And there's also no need to add Seachem Prime. There's this chart floating around Facebook pages that tells people to process water changes and or add Prime if ammonia levels are above 0.25 parts per million. But this is totally after your tank has been cycled and you may have fish in the tank. This is not for when you're cycling a tank because you should not have fish in the tank, and you need this ammonia and nitrites to feed the cycle. By processing a water change, you're essentially removing the food that feeds the cycle, and we don't want to do that. Alright, for those of you that are super impatient and need one of those pea puffers yesterday because they're so cute, you can buy some bacteria in a bottle to help kickstart this process. You can use something like API Quick Start or Seachem Stability, but we've used others with the same success. Just shake up the bottle real good and dose as directed. If you have an ammonia and nitrite test kit and want to watch the process, here's what's going to happen over the next few weeks. Your ammonia is going to spike because we just poured a handful of it into your tank, obviously, and over time the first bacteria will develop, whether you wait patiently or buy bacteria in a bottle. This bacteria will consume the ammonia and poop out nitrites. Awesome, huh? Then the nitrites will start building up naturally, causing a second bacteria to grow, which will then start consuming the nitrites, pooping out nitrates. And once all the ammonia has been consumed, and then all the nitrites have been consumed, and everything gets pushed out into nitrates, This is how we know you're done cycling your tank. Now, if you don't have API, ammonia, and nitrite test kits, that's totally fine, as you won't really need them after your tank is cycled if you've set up your filtration as we suggested. We'd suggest calling your local fish store and seeing if they could test your water to let you know it's been cycled. Again, what we want to see is 0 ammonia, 0 nitrites, and around 20 to 40 parts per million on nitrates. This is how we know your tank is cycled and you have enough bacteria to support livestock. If your local fish store doesn't test your water, then we'd suggest getting an API ammonia and nitrite test kit. Or you can get the Master Freshwater Kit, as you'll also get a nitrate and pH test kit along with the ammonia and nitrite. Again, this process is really easy. Add ammonia, wait a few weeks, and then make sure there's no ammonia or nitrites, and you're done. A couple things we'd like to note. One, it's arguable if an aquarium needs a heater, but we would like to note that if your water is too cold, it can slow the development of this bacteria, like anything else in life, hence why we have refrigerators. And on the other side of things, warm water can help promote healthy bacteria growth, but we don't want to go too warm. We generally like to keep our tanks around 72 to 74 degrees Fahrenheit or 22 to 23 degrees Celsius, which is a great balance between too cold and too hot. Secondly, it's totally fine to cycle your tanks with plants in it. They actually like ammonia and nitrites and will be happy while you wait for the tank to cycle. Just know that if your ammonia gets over the sweet spot of 2 to 3 parts per million, the ammonia can burn the plants. So just try to keep the ammonia in that sweet spot, and if it does get over, process a water change. And third, if your tank's water may start looking a little cloudy, like your kid may have poured some milk into the tank, this is totally normal. This milky cloudiness is referred to as a bacteria bloom, and is from the unnatural amounts of ammonia in the tank. Don't worry, this cloudiness will subside after the tank is finished cycling. But then this leads us to what happens if my cycle stalls or it stops cycling. First, let's talk about what a stall is. This is when your ammonia or nitrites are dropping fine, but then all of a sudden they stop dropping, like the bacteria went on a vacation or something. There are a few things that can stall or stop the cycling process. The first is your water's KH and pH. As nitrifying bacteria starts to develop, your water's pH is going to naturally drop as they do their job. The nitrification process creates an acid as a byproduct, which lowers the pH. When the pH starts to dip, it will start to pull your KH down as well. If your pH drops too far into the 6s, the cycling process slows. When your pH drops below 6.2, your cycle can completely stall. If you have no clue what we're talking about as far as KH and pH goes, check out our water chemistry guide. We'll put a link in the description below. So then how do we counteract the tank's pH and KH from dropping? Well, we increase the KH back up with sodium bicarbonate or baking soda, which also pushes the pH up as well. Whether or not you're cycling a tank, we always recommend keeping your KH around 4 degrees. And this also happens to be the sweet spot for cycling your tank. Again, during the cycling process, we do not process water changes, unless your ammonia is over 3 parts per million. And if your KH and pH are low, add some baking soda to bring it back up. Just as a benchmark, 1 gram of baking soda will increase your KH by a little more than 1 degree in 10 gallons of water. Just go slow with it, test your KH after a few minutes. Baking soda dissolves quickly in our tank's water. Now your nitrates can get to 1,000 parts per million. It doesn't matter. Do not change your water. Just let the tank cycle. Once your tank is fully cycled, and you do want to add fish in it, this is when we process a 75 to 90% water change to remove all the nitrates out of the tank. And then this is when we can adjust the water chemistry to the livestock's needs. Just make sure there's enough filtration to keep the water sparkling clean. Oh yeah, we haven't talked about filtration and how that can stall your tank from cycling. So let's talk about that. As talked about in our filtration guide, which again, we'll put a link in the description below, your filtration is comprised of 3 main stages: mechanical filtration, biological filtration, and chemical filtration. If your filter is set up correctly, and once your tank is cycled, you'll never have to deal with ammonia or nitrites again. However, if the design of your filtration is poor, there's a chance it could be sending you back to square one again. For example, if your mechanical filtration is set up properly, this part of the filter can be rinsed out with tap water, entirely replaced if necessary, verbally abused, whatever, and we won't kill the beneficial bacteria needed to keep our tank cycled. Its only function is to catch particulate matter and is not used to house beneficial bacteria. Then there is biological filtration. Most of us call it biomedia. which is designed to be the house for our beneficial bacteria. Our biomedia should only be gently rinsed out with tank water, and never hardcore cleaned out with tap water, as the chlorine in the tap water will kill our beneficial bacteria. If you have an established tank and your water gets that milky, cloudy look, there is a chance that you may have killed your beneficial bacteria by either cleaning it too well or cleaning it with tap water that has chlorine or chloramines in it. But for those of you with just a sponge filter, toss that ugly spaceship and get a friggin' canister filter, will ya? Even if it's a mini one. All joking aside, the biggest problem we have with sponge filters is that it's both mechanical filtration and biological filtration in one. So if you want to clean out the particulate matter that has been sucked into the sponge, you're going to be rinsing away your biological filtration as well. And if we kill out our biological filtration, we are back to square one, stalling our cycle. You'll have high ammonia, and if you have fish in the tank, you could potentially kill them as well. It's just a mess. Do yourself a favor and get a canister filter and never look back. If you have to stick with something like a hang-on back filter, just make sure that your mechanical filtration is separate from your biological filtration. The big takeaway is, watch our filtration video, set up your canister properly, and you'll never have to deal with cycling your tank again, as long as you're not tossing in 100 fish at a time. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about this question. How many fish can I add now that my tank is cycled? Well, the total amount of fish you can add to your tank depends on filtration, but that's another day. We just want to note that once your tank is cycled, you don't want to immediately go out, purchase 100 fish, and dump them all in your tank immediately. We also don't want to wait forever after the tank is cycled to add fish, as our bacteria needs ammonia and nitrites to stay alive. We suggest to add 5 to 6 smaller fish, like schooling neons, or 2 to 3 medium-sized fish, or 1 large fish at a time. Remember, each fish you add is going to be like a little ammonia factory, swimming around, pooping and peeing. All this waste is going to kick up the ammonia content, causing an increase in the amount of beneficial bacteria that your aquarium needs. And we need to allow the bacteria time to catch up to the new waste load. The nice thing about a planted tank is they naturally protect our fish against ammonia and nitrites. Plants actually prefer ammonia over nitrates. So if you get a little spike and you have plants in the tank, they'll naturally want to absorb the ammonia, protecting your livestock. But the big thing here is we just don't want to overload the beneficial bacteria with too much ammonia. Take it slow, add a couple of fish a week, and let your bacteria catch up. There's one last thing that we'd like to talk about, and it's called the dark start. Copyright infringement. Now this may sound really fancy and intriguing, but it's just cycling your aquarium without lights on. Yeah, did you know that you don't even need lights at all for cycling your tank? Some use the dark start method to limit algae while ammonia and nitrites are really high. Ammonia and nitrates can be referred to as organics, and high organic levels and high light can lead to algae. Hence why we suggest canister filters with 10 times turnover to help us remove these organics in the water quickly, preventing algae. So why the heck would someone even use the dark start method? Okay, check this out. Say you're getting into the hobby and you got your soil and your hardscape all set up, but you need more time to save up for a light, maybe some tissue culture cups, some fish, etc. Well, because you're a baller on a budget, clearly, you can totally cycle your aquarium while you wait for more money to burn. And if you time it right, your tank could be cycled by the time you're ready to add plants, livestock, and the entire cycling process could be algae-free. Cool, huh? This dark start method is used a lot in the saltwater side of things, but is gaining traction on the freshwater side. I do want to note that the dark start is totally not needed, but more so just a way to cycle your tank and get that out of the way while you're waiting to pick up more gear, plants, livestock, whatever. All you need for the dark start method is a tank, your substrate, a filter, and some sort of ammonia source. And for cycling purposes, you don't even need a hardscape. Just know that after your tank is cycled, you'll either want to add fish or a very small amount of ammonia just to keep your beneficial bacteria fed. Alright, that's all we can think of with cycling the tank. If you guys do have any questions we hadn't thought about, drop them down in the comments section and we'll get back to you. But this leads us to a recap. To cycle your tank, all you need is an ammonia source. We suggest Dr. Tim's ammonium chloride as it's super easy to use. Follow the directions on the back of the bottle to get your ammonia up to 2 to 3 parts per million and let the tank cycle for 3 to 4 weeks. If you still have ammonia or nitrites in the tank, then you need to give it more time. If your tank stalls, as in the ammonia or nitrites aren't going down any longer, look at your pH and or KH. If your KH is dropped below 4 degrees, add some baking soda. As a reminder, 1 gram of baking soda will increase your KH a little over 1 degree in 10 gallons of water. And if you need more time to buy gear or supplies, and want to try to avoid algae during the cycling process, you can totally cycle the tank without the lights on. Once there is no ammonia or nitrites in the tank, then your tank is cycled. Simply process a 75 to 95% water change prior to adding fish, and use either dechlorinated tap water or remineralized RO water adjusted to your tank's design. If you have any questions, feel free to toss them down in the comments section, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. If you have any plant-related questions, check out the AquascapeGuide University. It's a free online course that covers the 5 pillars of keeping planted tanks, which are lighting, nutrients, CO2, water chemistry, and filtration. We'll put a link in the description for you. Also, if you haven't been to our site in a while, our store is live. Yay! We just got a bunch of Tropica tissue culture cups in that I've got to go take care of. But hey, hopefully we'll see you in the next video. Later, scapers.